All right, what's up, Chiefs Kingdom? It was a sad Thanksgiving for Chiefs fans, but we're going to talk about the loss to the Cowboys. My name is Alex Liu. You're watching Alu2 Productions, and this is my podcast, Win or Lose Chiefs News. Yet again, another losing edition and a losing Thanksgiving edition of this podcast. Today, I'm going to go through just a couple of main takeaways from the game, including the offensive identity crisis, the disappearance of our defense, the same old story, just continuing to play for this entire team, beating ourselves more than the other team beating us, and our playoff hopes pretty much slipping away. There's a very small chance that we make the playoffs at this point. As usual, I tried to have a little bit of a silver lining and positive end to my videos, and in the spirit of Thanksgiving, trying to be at least somewhat thankful for everything that I think Chiefs fans have gotten to experience over the last 7 years. I did go into this game knowing I was going to be drinking while watching this game. I had 2 Boulevard Brewing Company beers, both over 10%. I think one was a quadruple, the other was a whiskey stout. I knew I was going to need it either way, win or lose. I pretty much did the same thing last year on Christmas Day when the Chiefs played the Steelers, because I remembered back to the horrible, I think it was Christmas Day, loss to the Raiders the year prior. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to need copious amounts of alcohol to get through this, whether it was a win or a loss. Before we get started on today's very quick, brief recap, because at this point, there isn't a whole lot that I can say that I have not said or thought before. Please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, comment, share, and follow me on Instagram. I would love support for my channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much. Chiefs lose to the Cowboys 31-28 on Thanksgiving afternoon down in Dallas. I don't really know if this is necessarily an identity crisis. I don't think this team offensively has really had much of an identity this season. I think we're still stuck in the past. This team is still stuck in their old ways and trying to make what used to work continue to work, and it's just not. And one of the few things on offense that is working, it might not be explosive, but there are definitely some bright spots and some small-ish explosive runs here and there, and even just chipping away with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-yard runs. The running game has proven to actually be probably one of the more consistent, slow-building elements to our offense. But unfortunately, Andy Reid sticking with the run game in the win over the Colts did not continue over into the Dallas game. After we got out to a 14-7 lead, we went 2 quarters scoreless in a scoreless drought, basically shutting ourselves out. I would like to think that Dallas didn't really do a whole lot to stop us. I think that we stalled out our own drives. But we, first and foremost, abandoned the run game, as we have in many games this year, and in many games and seasons in Andy Reid's entire coaching career, dating back to when he was with the Eagles. I don't understand how Kareem Hunt is actually having a really solid year running for us, and we're just not leaning on him more. I understand he's, I think, 29 years old, and that's old for a running back in the NFL, and I get that he took a pounding against the Colts. I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like for him to try to wake up and get out of bed last Monday morning after that 30-carry game against the Colts. But he continues to run hard. Pacheco came back, and I don't know whether he's fully healthy or not, but we only gave the ball to him a few times from what I can recall. Tony Romo says this like every single game he and Jim Nantz call for the Chiefs, which is a lot these days. For years now, they've been calling a lot of Chiefs games. And he was talking about, yet again, how the Chiefs should not be running run plays from shotgun. They should not be doing these gun zone read runs, because those were working a couple of years ago. They have not been working since. They need to be running from under center. And for some reason, they don't want to do that. And I don't understand why. And then that kind of shifted to the pass-heavy play calling. I just don't understand why Andy Reid and this team collectively can't just stick with what works. I know a lot isn't working, but what is working, they're shying away from it. This kind of coincides with Mahomes having just general trust issues, trust issues with the offensive line, and understandably so, but even when they are blocking successfully for him and protecting well, he, I think, has somewhat been scarred by the performance last year in the Super Bowl loss to the Eagles, where I think he assumes the pocket is collapsing. He's assuming that he has to get rid of the ball sooner than he really does. He's not even really trusting the receivers. He's overthrowing the deep balls. There's guys dropping passes here and there. There's guys not running the routes correctly. Guys aren't getting open. So he's double clutching. He's overthinking. He's taking sacks instead of throwing the ball away. My dad made a great observation while I was watching the game, and he didn't understand why Mahomes didn't throw the ball away when he rolled out to his right. He was trying to extend the play. He took too long, and finally the pressure got to him. And that's just a difference between this year's team and in years past is guys are not getting open when Mahomes is trying to extend plays. That is something that was working before, and I don't really think defenses are covering any better. I just think guys are not working back to Mahomes or going deep or crossing from one sideline to the other to try to get open. I'm not understanding that. And now the offensive line is starting to look depleted, like in the Super Bowls that we've lost, essentially, where I think we had like 3 starters out at one point last game. Trey Smith was already out heading into the game. Josh Simmons, I believe he got hurt late in the game, and Wanya Morris came in, and Jawan Taylor went down. And so we had Jalen Moore. We had Mike Caliendo already filling in for Kingsley Suamataia. I think Creed was the only remaining true offensive starter on that line. It's just making everything worse. It's definitely making the projected remaining 5-game schedule look pretty grim as to how we're going to operate, even though we do have a mini bye week here in between this game and the Texans game. And that game is at home, and we'll touch on that here in a bit. But it's not looking good when you have an offensive line that has already had some issues, and then now guys are really getting banged up. And guys like Wanya Morris, most Chiefs fans, I don't think we really have even an ounce of faith in guys like that to really step up, fill in, and get the job done. And then, as usual, this team continues to have penalty issues. And I think what's been probably the most negative impact with the way the Chiefs are running their offense is they are playing themselves into undesirable situations by passing when they really should keep running the ball. Because when they pass and they try to throw deep, they are opening themselves up to the possibility and the potential, giving themselves a greater chance to commit penalties. And that's exactly what happens. Mahomes tries to throw deep. Someone on the O-line holds, causing us to take a penalty back up 10 yards. Then on second down, we only complete a pass play for like 2 or 3 yards. And then before you know it, it's a 3rd and long, and we stall out. I think up 14-7, I think they should have just run the ball. Kept it simple, kept running clock, maintained possession, do what they did against the Colts, and time of possession, ball control. That went out the window for some reason, and the game just completely shifted after we were up 14-7 and really put the game in Dallas's hands. The next thing I want to touch on is just the defense. I don't really know if it's like a disappearance of the defense. I don't really think the defense has been present really much this year. They still kind of maintain that bend, don't break mentality. They're giving up about 20, 30 points a game, it seems like lately. They're sometimes pretty good or decent on 1st and 2nd downs, but the problem is they're not getting off the field on 3rd downs. They can't win on 3rd downs. They don't have any playmakers or game changers. I mean, they barely had a turnover because they sent a good pressure on Dak Prescott early. Jalen Watson made the interception, and that was a gimme. It was thrown right to him because Dak had to release the ball quicker than he wanted to. But that easy interception was the only defensive highlight. That's the one bright spot, and then pretty much nothing for the rest of the game. Chris Jones had some plays where he won right off the line and forced some disruption, but nothing else really. No one else is stepping up to make plays. We had no sacks on Dak Prescott, hardly any pressure. You have high-paying guys like Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, and you can't generate pressure with a 4-man rush. Even when we blitzed, no one's getting home. And that's why we're not getting off the field on 3rd downs. At a certain point, I could just tell when we were going to blitz or when we weren't. It just looks very predictable. It's very obvious and clear when we're going to blitz. We're going to try to blitz on 3rd down because we have no choice. If you can't get home with 4, you're forced to blitz to try to give yourself an increased chance. But it's not happening. Similar to the offensive line. On the defensive side, we're starting to get depleted a little bit. We used to be one of the more relatively healthy teams in the league, and now Brian Cook got hurt. We had to bring back guys like Mike Pennell and Mike Edwards, who have simply kind of been band-aids on the defense. Like I said, no playmakers. No one is a ball hawk. No one is stepping up to pick off passes, jump routes, play aggressive. None of that. It's a very safe, conservative, and soft defense, usually playing zone. And when we play man, we just can't seem to cover. I know George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are good, but it doesn't really matter which receivers we're facing or tight ends. We just can't cover. I don't know how many dropped Nick Bolton interception chances we're going to see this season, but he just can't seem to hang on. I think a week ago and earlier in the season against the Jags, we've got two guys running into each other. What should have been an interception ends up being a dropped interception opportunity. And it just kind of feels like slowly over the years, we're really starting to miss guys that we've lost, like Justin Reed, Tershawn Wharton, L'Jarius Sneed, just to name a few. You know, we're just beating ourselves. We're our own worst enemy. I don't even know if you could say this was a tale of two halves, because it was more like the first and the last quarter of the game, where the Chiefs scored 14 points in the first and 14 points in the fourth. Scoreless drought in between. You know, you can't really expect to win in a game like that, where you couldn't even get across midfield into the red zone to kick field goals. You gave Butker 0 chances at field goal opportunities because of the fact that every time in the second and third quarter, when we got around midfield or just past midfield, penalties, negative plays caused drives to stall out. Tony Romo called it. He was saying regular season playoff game, essentially. And we are just proving that we can't win these. We can't beat Buffalo, can't beat Denver, can't beat the Cowboys. I don't think we were lucky to win the Colts game, but in some ways, I mean, that we barely pulled that out when we really needed to. We couldn't pull out this one. In general, they are a close but not clutch team this season. This was another game where we stayed within a score, but we just couldn't close it out. We couldn't win when we had chances to go win the game. I don't know how many punts we had in a row between the second and third quarters, but not able to put together scoring drives, and I don't really understand. We got off to a fast start. Great defensive forced turnover to start the game on Dallas's opening script, and then the ensuing offensive possession, go down and capitalize off that turnover, and 2 plays score a touchdown. Next drive, get the ball, go down for another touchdown scoring drive. But after up 14-7, they couldn't put any scoring drives together until they got desperate and were keeping the game close there at the end in the fourth quarter. We just continue to let our opponents dictate mostly the course of the game, but also especially the end of games. Instead of us playing on our own terms, win the game when we have opportunities. I mean, we did take a lead back in this game at one point, but we couldn't extend it from there. And defense couldn't hold, and we didn't go and win the game when we had the chance. We had a number of chances. So the Chiefs are now 6-6. I think it's been a reality check for probably a few weeks now. You are what your record says you are, and in a lot of ways, the Chiefs are just average this year. Certainly not a bad team. They're not 3-9. They're not 1-11, but they are generally better at home, which gives a little bit of optimism for the Texans game. They've only lost one game at home, and that was to the Eagles. And then they've only won one game on the road. If they could just get out of their own way and play simplified football, not get too cute. I'm not opposed to the Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice Wildcat formation plays in certain situations, but I wish that they would just run from under center. No more shotgun runs. I wish that Mahomes would run the ball a little bit more and just take over. I think we need to lean more on the run and not much on the passing game, and just hope the defense can just try to keep us within games, keep us in games, keep it close. And honestly, we're going to have to settle for more field goals, because field goals would have helped make a difference in this game, but we had none. The season is not technically mathematically over for good, but the playoff hopes are certainly slipping away. We no longer control our own destiny, our own fate. You know, we pretty much have to win out. And we have to get help from teams like Buffalo, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Houston, and the Chargers losing games, essentially, if we want to sneak in as a wild card. So we've got this mini bye, about a week and a half off before we host the Texans, I believe, on Sunday Night Football next Sunday. But as I mentioned, it's just hard to stay optimistic with the current O-line situation. It was already an uphill battle all season to protect, to run block, really to do anything. But now with a lot of guys down, it's looking really rough. And I think that's why the Chiefs offense, to a certain degree, I don't think we should even really focus that much on playoffs at this point. Just play each game to really play to whatever strengths we have with that offensive line. Keep it simple. I would not do a whole lot of pass plays because that offensive line, they just are not going to be able to hold up. We're just going to be committing so many penalties because we can't block. So I think you just need to run the ball. If you run the ball on first and second down, even if you just get 2-3 yard carries and you set up a third and manageable, that's going to have to be the chance that you give yourself to keep it manageable and give yourself a chance on third downs. With a month left of football, I just don't know if you can realistically fix coaching, execution, and penalties in the next 30 days or so. I just don't know if that's possible. I think this is a deeper rooted issue that we're going to really have to work on resolving in the offseason, and it might even take a year or two or more to really start to re-overhaul this roster, get back to finding an identity, getting better playmakers. I think the current state of the team, I think we've sort of aged out. We milked this out. We took it as far as we could. The rest of the league has kind of caught up in some ways, and we're just what used to be working isn't working anymore. So we need a refresh, like a real hard reset. All right, so to wrap up with a Thanksgiving silver lining, I tried to, as I was blogging about this as well, and speaking of that, please do check out the link below in the description. I have a WordPress blog for Win or Lose Chiefs News where I pretty much do recaps of every game. I was thinking, as I was writing, I was just kind of thinking about, all right, well, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I do want to try to be somewhat positive and optimistic to close out this week. A loss is a loss. It wasn't what we were hoping for, obviously. I think when you think about perspective, just in terms of 3 Super Bowl championships and 5 appearances over the last 7 years, the entire span in which Mahomes has been the starter of this team, this is just more than anybody in Chiefs Kingdom ever could have hoped, prayed for, dreamed about. I was just happy in 2019 to have even reached a Super Bowl. I mean, I grew up watching guys like Tony Gonzalez, Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, but even when Andy Reid first got here and we had like Eric Berry, Tom Bali, Derek Johnson, Alex Smith, all those guys. I mean, in my lifetime, I've seen basically 2 decades worth of like average, slightly above average play from the Chiefs, and a team that was just never able to really win in the playoffs up until a certain point. The franchise went 50 years between Super Bowls. They established themselves as a dynasty, and a lot of people are going to say the dynasty's dead for good, but I think when you refer back to Tom Brady and the Patriots, I mean, they went a decade between Super Bowl wins, and within that 10 years, they lost 2 Super Bowls, both to the Giants. It does not mean that this is going to be done for good. This might just be the start of, or this is the down year, and you never know what next year or the next couple of years holds. You constantly have to rebuild and reload, and that's why they say it's a climb from the bottom to the top of the mountain every single year. We just have to stay the course as fans. We're coming to grips with the reality that we really might not make the playoffs for the first time in years, probably over 10 years, I think. I really believe that this team, the organization, they're going to figure things out eventually. The call to action for Chiefs Kingdom right now when things just seem really miserable is, the season isn't officially over. So let's just take the loss, stay hopeful, positive, thankful that we have the Chiefs. We've gotten to see so much from them. It's been a wild ride for nearly a decade now with Mahomes and company. So I believe that if it's not this year, hopefully they come back stronger next year or in a couple of years. I just think it's rough because I think if there was going to be the first time that we don't make an AFC championship, I think most people thought that it would come in like the wild card or divisional round. I don't think anyone expected, we just won't make the playoffs. That is where we find ourselves at 6-6. We just gotta take it, move on, never stop rooting for the Chiefs. I'm never gonna give up on this team, as frustrating as it can be. I think all Chiefs fans can relate when we're disappointed, we're pissed off, we're frustrated, but let's be thankful for what we've gotten to see. And I know that it's easy when you have success to get pretty spoiled and you just kind of demand it. The standard is set so high, and that's what we expect to see. So it is disappointing, but we've just got to move on and stick with them. And sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. That's what it comes down to. Well, that is the podcast episode for this week. This is episode 9 of Win or Lose Chiefs News podcast on my YouTube channel, ALU2 Productions. My name is Alex Liu. Again, episode 9 for the 2025 season. And as usual, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, comment, share, follow me on Instagram, and let me know your thoughts, Chiefs Kingdom. I would love to hear from anyone out there who, is still kind of dealing with the somber mood from Thanksgiving. We're going to wrap up this week and move on. So stay tuned for more episodes, and I will see you guys next time. As usual, let's go Chiefs.